You're listening to The Simplified CEO, the podcast that shows you business does not have to be complicated. So grab a coffee, get comfy, and let's show you how you can get success in every area of your life the simpler way.
Just before we jump into today's episode, I have to give today's sponsor a shout out. Now, you know, here on Simplified CEO, we are all about the simple life in business. And I know one of the main areas every entrepreneur wishes was simpler was the bookkeeping. Well, it can be with today's sponsor, Xero. This is an accounting software I have used for years, and honestly, it's made it so easy for me to keep a track of everything. It automates manual tasks, meaning I'm not losing hours to admin, and it can be done from anywhere using their fantastic mobile app. So if you're looking for a simpler way to keep on top of your bookkeeping, go and check out Xero today using the link in the show notes below for a special offer. Now let's get back to today's episode.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Simplified CEO podcast. My name is Claire Bartlett. I am your host, and today I am sharing my exact mindset shift that took me to six-figure business in just 20 hours a week. Now, I get asked all of the time how I managed to fit everything in my day, how I managed to spend so much time with my family and, be present, have those spa days and all of those lovely elements of my life that I really never wanted to give away, but still have two successful businesses. So today I am sharing the exact moment that everything changed, the exact mindset shift that I had to have, that sort of eureka moment, and how you can have it too. So, first of all, I want to take you back a few years and explain a little bit more about sort of me and where I was and what led me to have this mindset shift. So, go back, I think it was, 3 years ago, and I was working in my business. I was sort of saying I was part time. I was only meant to be working 4 days a week. And if you asked me, honestly, I would answer saying, yeah, I only work 9 till 3, 4 days a week. And that was technically true. That was what I was doing in my office with my team. I would get there after school drop off. I would do the hours in the day, and then I would leave and do the school pickup. But what I wasn't taking into account, and I mean this honestly, I wasn't understanding the amount of hours that I was putting into this business. I was getting home and I was switching on my laptop to, finish off a few more emails, or I was straight on my mobile phone to do my social media. I was doing some more work after my daughter had gone to bed. Fridays, I always said I never worked Fridays. In reality, I worked almost every Friday, but I just wasn't structured with my time. So I wasn't like a 9 till 3 on a Friday. I would sort of have more flexibility, but I was still working every Friday. And even on the weekend, still, I was still picking up my phone, doing some social media, doing some engagement, or, planning the week ahead. And it got to a moment where there was one evening and I'd come home and I was, technically had finished work, but I was busy away in my office on my laptop, and my daughter came in and asked if I could go and play with her. Perfectly, reasonable request. And I really snapped at her. I was really in the middle of something that was quite important for work. And I was like, I'm busy. You can see that I'm busy. And she sort of, dropped her head and walked away. And in that moment, I just thought, what the hell am I doing? Like, honestly, the whole reason that I set up this business in the first place was to be a present mum, was to have that flexibility of my time, have complete control over my life and how I spent each hour. And I had completely lost that because the business had become so successful. It had become my gilded cage. Like, I, on the outside, looked so successful, and I had the pressure of keeping that sort of image going, and I didn't wanna let my clients down, I didn't wanna let my team down, I didn't wanna let my household down with the income that I was generating. Like, I'd just fallen into this trap and I hadn't even realized that I was in it. And in that moment, I just thought, something has got to give, something has got to change. I need to really analyze how I'm spending my time. And this is where the mindset shift happened, because I looked at my week and my time and I started tracking actually what I was doing when I was switching my laptop on, and I counting the time that I was on my phone, all of those little moments that you don't really classify as work because you're not sitting at your desk in your office. I would really started tracking every single moment of them. And I realized that, oh my God, I was working so much more than I ever had realized. And it was like 60 to 80 hours a week. It was ridiculous. And then I thought, well, hang on. If I actually look at that hours and how much I'm bringing home, what is my actual hourly rate here? And that was a bit of a slap in the face. Um, yeah, that was really the wake up call that I needed. I needed to see actually the amount of hours I was putting in. And it's true, right? We see this all the time. Entrepreneurs saying that they work harder than they ever did when they were employed, and most of the time are taking home less money. Well, that doesn't sit right with me. That's not how business should be, right? We're passionate about it. We are growing it for our own lifestyle and to give us something and to give back to the world. We should be valuing our time and we should be being paid accordingly. So I knew that this couldn't go on. I had to determine my own worth and how much my hours, how much my time was actually worth, not just to myself and in my own life, but to my clients, like the value that I was bringing to them, the service that I was providing was worth more than that. I had to make the change of not looking at my time for money in a direct exchange, but actually the value that that time was providing. And that was where, the sort of the sirens are going off, the light bulb moments. That's the mindset shift that you need to take, because that is when you're stepping from a sort of self-employed consultant mindset to a CEO mindset. You're not looking at your day-to-day diary anymore in like, how many more hours can I fill to bring in some more money? You're not looking at it at that, literally one for one, hour for money equation. You're looking at the overall factors. And you have to evaluate the tasks that you're spending those hours on. So the process that I went through, and I've actually created a free resource. It's called a 3-day CEO audit. I'll put the link in the show notes. It's completely free to download, and it will take you through this step by step. But the very first things that you need to do, which is what I did all those years ago, like I said, is journal and really document every single minute that you're spending on your business and within your business. And I don't just mean the time that you're sitting at your desk in your office, with the staff around you, because when we're the business owners, in reality, that is not where our day ends. We've got, networking events, meetings, social occasions. We have the social media, the engagement on social media, building those relationships. And we feel like that doesn't really class as work because we're sitting on our sofa on the evening, maybe with a glass of wine, or, you've got a candle lit and you're all relaxed. You might even be in your pajamas. It's still work, right? It all counts. So document every single minute that you're spending. And then you have to evaluate actual worth of those tasks, whether they are income generating for your business, where they sit on the scale of skills and value that is bringing to you and your clients and your life. And it's a very simple method. There's a £10, £100, £1,000 tasks. Things for £10 tasks are like scheduling the content that you've created. It's working through your email inbox. It's booking meetings with clients. Those sort of admin tasks that you could definitely outsource for 15 to £20 an hour. They are not worth your time or energy as the CEO of your business. Those are the very first things. And often, interestingly, they're the ones that take up the most of our time. That's where we're spending most of our time. And you know why we're spending most of our time there? Because they feel safe. They're easy. They are a great place to procrastinate and hide from the bigger, scarier tasks in your business. And listen, I'll hold my hands up because I was exactly there with you. I was spending so much of my time in those really small tasks that made me feel important and business and busy, but were not moving my business forward in any way, shape, or form. They were just stealing my private time away from me. They were stealing my time away from with my daughter. And they had to go. And I knew in that moment that they were the first things that I had to deal with. But before taking any action, I carried on through the process. Okay, what were my £100 tasks? What are tasks that need some skill and are adding some value and are potentially generating some income for the business, but they don't necessarily need my level of skill? As the CEO, I don't necessarily need to be spending all of my time in these £100 tasks. So they are things that you can outsource. You can delegate to other team members. They're ones that you can schedule into your diary, but not prioritize. These are, they have some importance to your business, but they're not the most important things in your diary. The most important things are the £1,000 tasks. These are the ones that really move the needle, bring in the money for your business. They're the ones that can really propel you forward. Most of the time, they're the ones you enjoy the most because it's the way your passion is in your business and it's why you went into business in the first place. That is where you should be spending all of your time. That's the goal, to spend all of your time just on those £1,000 tasks. And the way to do this, once you've allocated them and once you've decided which ones are the £10, £100, £1,000 tasks, then you can start analyzing, okay, well, how can I take steps to get rid of those lower end tasks? How can I value my time in a more efficient way? And the easiest way, and the way that I did it the most, yes, I outsourced some, I brought in some team members, so I delegated. But in the most, I use systems and processes. I used automation. I used solutions that are out there readily available to us as business owners that I just wasn't utilizing. Yes, for some of them, there's a fee, there's a small fee, but this is where that mindset shift really kicks in because you know that the cost of that software is way worth investing in because the amount of time and energy it's going to save you overall in your practice, that you can then refill that time if you wanted to with £1,000 tasks. That's where the magic happens. So I used automation, I used scheduling tools. I brought in apps like Calendly, so my diary was automatically, bookings, meetings were booked without me having to go back and forth 100 times. "Oh, does this day work?" Or, "I'm free on Tuesday, but I can only do between 10 and 1." All of that was just gone. It was instantly, the pressure of all of that was instantly relieved. My email inbox, which I have always really struggled with. I don't know why, but it just overwhelms me. I instantly outsourced that and got someone to help me with that. And just, clearing out the spam and replying to those easy, quick response emails. Again, I don't need to be spending my time on those things. So getting rid of the £10 tasks first can free up, because like I said earlier, it is where actually the most time consuming tasks are. That can free up like 2 to 4 hours a week. Honestly, it can absolutely change your entire week. And this is then where you have to be tough with yourself because great, you've just freed up 2 or 4 hours of your week. Amazing. This is where the hustle culture, that toxic hustle culture that we've all inadvertently bought into, can really rear its ugly head. And you can think, I've got all this free time now, I can fill it with £1,000 tasks, let's do it. And if that is what you want to do, then amazing. Obviously, that's a great step forward for your business. But if the purpose of this is to reclaim your time and to free up and build that flexibility and work towards a 20-hour week like me, then you have to resist. You don't need to fill that time because the whole purpose of clearing the decks is to free yourself up, right? And get that flexibility and that freedom. So you go through the process and you free up as much time as possible. And if you are smart here, if you use all of the solutions that are available to you and you use the team that you have, or you bring in, some consultants or some freelancers, some subcontractors, you can honestly half, if not more, the hours that you're spending in your business each week. And then you have the choice. Then you can decide, okay, well, I can increase my time again a little bit. I can bring in some more £1,000 tasks, or you can keep it as it is. But what was the most important for me is my turnover didn't suffer at all when I literally cut my time by a third each week. I went from 60 to 80 hours a week down to 20 hours a week, and my turnover didn't drop a penny. And even more impressive is that I had the increased cost from the softwares and the other elements, but yet my actual profit increased in the business because it's working smarter. And I rolled out this to all of my staff. So it wasn't just that I freed up my time and my staff was still busy in the dredges of the £10 tasks. I implemented these solutions across the board in my business. So suddenly everyone had more free time. So I could pass down the £100 tasks because they were passing down the £10 tasks. So it has this amazing rolling effect that really frees up time throughout your business so you can all focus on those higher, actual income generating tasks. And I know that this can be scary because you're trusting, tech, you're trusting potentially AI or other solutions to handle some of this work, but you have to be able to let go. You can't micromanage. You can't reread everything and recheck everything. You have to be able to understand the importance of making these changes in your business, what it's actually going to mean for you and your family and your business. And you have to be brave and take that leap. And don't try and change everything at once because when I talk about this was like a 6-month process for me. I didn't just wake up, have that, light bulb moment that something had to change and then change everything overnight because that's overwhelming, it's unrealistic, and things will start falling apart and then you lose the trust in the changes that you're making. I did it really gradually. So I did all this assessment, I figured out the tasks that I wanted to get rid of, and then I chose the one that was taking up the most of my time for the least benefit to me and my business. That was the very first place that I started. So that was, those proper admin tasks, those booking the meetings, those sorts of things. That was the first thing. And because I could outsource a lot of them to one place by getting a VA, that was an easy solution for me. And then I started looking once that was handled and it was working, we'd done the handover and everything was in place and the trust was there, I moved on to the next one. So don't try and fix everything at once, but just switching your mindset on and being aware of where these energy drains and these time drains within your week will instantly make you feel sort of lighter, like just more in control of everything. And then you build yourself a plan, you build the strategy of where you want to be in 30, 60, 90 days. What solutions you're going to find, where you're going to put your attention, in the beginning, what are the first 3 tasks I want to resolve, then what would be the next ones, etc. And the biggest thing here is realizing that you are a CEO. This is your business. You are the most valuable asset in that business. You and your time are a precious resource, and you have to treat them both with the respect that they deserve, both your skill and knowledge and your time. You need to protect your diary with like everything that you have. Some of the things that I put into place were boundaries between me and my clients. So I didn't give out my mobile number anymore, my business mobile. I gave them the office number. So then staff members could start picking up the phone and filtering those calls before they came to me. I didn't have to deal with spam calls anymore or sales calls. They were all filtered out. And I only got to speak to the clients and the important work, in regards to £100,000 tasks. So it's changing the boundaries that you've set within your business, but it all starts with your mindset. If you can see yourself as the most precious resource and you put those boundaries and those systems in place protect you, it is an amazing feeling. And it does feel awkward and weird in the beginning because you're not used to it. I was completely available to everybody, to all of my staff, to all of my clients. My number was on the internet, like my mobile number, business mobile, just to be clear here. But I was always available, and I'd loved that in the beginning. That was one of the things that I was really passionate about, is I wanted my clients to have that direct contact with me. But as the business grows, you realize that actually you can't keep that up. You don't have 20 clients anymore. You have over 100 clients. They cannot all be able to contact you whenever they want. And like I said, which is obvious, I know, but having my business mobile number out there means that all of the spam calls, all of the sales calls, they all came to me. And every time I took a sales call, a cold call, it used to like just put me in a really negative space. It just used to really frustrate me because it was such a waste of my time. But that was all my fault because I was allowing my number to be visible. I was allowing that direct contact with me. So I realized that I had to remove that. I had to start seeing myself as the CEO. And it will be difficult. This mindset shift, it doesn't happen overnight. You don't just wake up and think, yeah, I am the boss. I am a CEO. Nobody can contact me. I'm not saying any of that, but it will feel uncomfortable and you will get pushback. So into sort of 6 to 8 weeks, you'll start thinking, God, have I made the right decision? Should I just take all this back? Is this the wrong thing for me? You have to push through it, because if you have outsourced and you're training that new person, it's not going to be perfect. It isn't. It never, ever is. But you have to allow for that. You have to be understanding and patient with the process, because in the end, you will thank yourself. I promise you. So, as I said in the beginning, now I only work 20 hours a week. I have 2 businesses that I run. I'm also on my daughter's school PTA. I'm on the parent council. I do Pilates. I have space in my life for everything that I'm passionate about. And that is so intentional, and it took work to build. But by making this mindset shift and by making these changes, it has allowed for all of that to come into my life. And I promise, once you start this process and you start analyzing where your time is going and where those sort of energy leaks are and those time leaks in your business, you will not look back. So, as I said, I've created all of this in a 3-day audit that you can work through by yourself. The link is in the show notes, so please go and download it. Start making that mindset shift. Start seeing yourself as a CEO and start taking back control of your time. You're worth it, and your time is a valuable resource. So, start treating it just like that. And I will catch you next week.
I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. If you are ready to make your life simpler, then don't forget to check out today's sponsor, Xero, the accounting software that is ready to supercharge your business by automating routine tasks, giving you quick access to your financial data, and helping you get paid up to twice as fast using their online invoice payments. So if you are ready for a simpler way to keep on top of your bookkeeping, go check out Xero today. Get their special offer using the link in the show notes below.